That's perfect. Thank you so much, Terry. I'm really excited to, well, excited and a little nervous to be the first one, but this is a very different format, and obviously this is a talk that works a lot better in person, but we'll get through it, and it's going to be really fun because I am so passionate. I think Terry can attest to this. I'm so passionate about art. Art makes my life so much happier and better, and so I surround myself with it, whether it's music or on my walls, or that's why I volunteer with Souk Fine Arts, to be able to immerse myself for a month every summer in some of the finest art, I think, in Canada. So that is what I have to say. So my talk is about, you've bought a piece of art and now you're going to bring it into your home, and how do you look after it? How do you take care of it? So we can advance the slides, probably.
Yes, thank you.
Couple.
There
we go. Okay, so we've already done introductions, so we can move right into the next one. There we go. So this is just quick examples of some of my work that's been featured in Souk Fine Art shows. The one on the left is currently in the show now. The ones on the right were juried into a show called Taste of Souk. So they were there. But, you know, oddly enough, next slide, of all the things I've ever sold and done, the picture that I've sold the most is this one. So, art can be a whole bunch of different things. And I can't keep this picture either on cards or t-shirts in stock. It's just funny how people glom onto something. But so I put that in there just to make you chuckle, and people seem to love it. So, okay. So art, as I said, art, I wanted to show pictures of what we do when we're putting the show together. So this is where it starts. It's very familiar to Barbara. This is where it starts. We start in a hockey rink with a bunch of plywood that goes up into walls, and lighting goes on. And pretty soon it looks like this. That's what the show looks like once we've installed everything. And again, the next one, we start with this is actually people hanging, busy hanging. We go through pretty much the talk that I'm going to give you today about how to hang and the proper way to get it on the wall. And then we have a host of volunteers who do exactly that. And then it looks like this. So that's after our good volunteers put everything up, and it really, if you haven't been to the show in person, it really is astounding. I will admit, coming from Calgary and being a curator, when we were driving by, when we were visiting, and I saw Souk Fine Arts, my husband and I were a little dubious, but we thought, oh, well, you know, it's only $10, let's go have a look. And we both walked into Sea Park and our jaws hit the floor. It truly is an amazing show, and I'm so proud to be part of it. All right, so again, art. Why art? I'm a real quote person, and these are quotes about art that really touch my heart and sum up exactly how I feel. Nietzsche said, "We have art in order not to die of the truth." And I think right now that is so important. The truth around us is scary, bad, all the things that we're dealing with, and art helps us, I think, in that way. Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Art can bring out so much truth and touch things in us that maybe we didn't even know was there. And then the von Goethe quote, "A man should hear a little music, read a little poetry, and see a fine picture every day of his life, in order that worldly cares may not obliterate the sense of the beautiful which God has implanted in the human soul." And I love that. Again, I surround myself with music. I surround myself with beautiful pictures and out in Shirley, beautiful environment. And I try and read something that enriches my soul every day. So this picture was another picture that was in the Souk Fine Arts 3 years ago. So yeah. All right, so next. So start here. So what kind of art do we want to put on our walls? I say that you should populate your walls with love and memories. If you don't love something that's on your wall, don't have it there. And it doesn't matter what it is. It should just be something that you love or something that brings a memory or stirs an emotion. The picture that I have on the right is a picture I made of my brother several years ago. We had an interesting conversation when we were both in university. He didn't think that photography was art, so I wanted to show him that photography was art. And after he saw this picture, he declared, yes, art, photography is art too. But I love this piece because it stirs great memories of my brother, and I love it, and it's art. So it's one of the pictures that hangs on my wall. You know, you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. You can take your own pictures and do amazing things these days. You can either do it yourself. Photoshop Express has all kinds of wonderful options that you can make photos into artwork, or you can find someone that can do that. I just got a commission to take 4 different photos of different family members of a woman and put them all together and turn it into a drawing, you know, a Photoshop drawing. That's the kind of thing that you can do so easily, and it will become a piece of artwork on her wall. So there are wonderful options these days. It makes me sad when people go to Winners and walk out with paintings that have been created by, I hate to say this, but honestly, this is the truth. Some poor person who's getting 25 cents a day in a sweatshop to copy paintings that they found online, because I have artist friends who have been copied by exactly that. And that's what you're paying for. And you're paying a lot of money that you could go to an artist that maybe you know, or you see, or our youth art. Every year we have amazing youth art. So to be able to actually support a genuine artist instead of somebody who's being exploited in a sweatshop, I think is really important. Learn the rules and then break them. What I'm saying with that is that when you're hanging pieces, we're going to go through some basic rules, but it kind of is what works in your environment. So as soon as it's like anything else in life, when you know the rules, then you can feel more comfortable to break them in an acceptable, knowledgeable way, and not just, I stuck this here because. All right. And then I got ahead of myself with the support local real artists. And as I say, that may be you, because it may be a picture you already have in your collection somewhere, or a grand picture that your grandmother did, and you know, do something fun with it. Express yourself through what you're putting on your walls, and again, support local artists wherever you can. A lot of artists were not, they fell through the cracks. I know I did through the COVID thing, and the government wouldn't give me any money to support me through this time. And I know there are a lot of artists like that, and unfortunately I have a husband who takes care of me, but there are a lot who don't. So if we can support local artists, it's very, very, very important. Art versus decor. And again, everything doesn't have to be fine art. It can be something that enhances your decor, but at the same time, don't be beholden to that. Just because something doesn't match your decor doesn't mean that you have to not place it. Find a way to make it work, you know, whether that's matting it or framing it so that it suddenly works with your decor. That's an option that you can always do. So be free and easy, and just again, love what you have on your walls. Life is way too short to put up stuff you don't love. Okay, next slide. Again, jump in with questions anytime you have them, so in the chat. All right, so a few do's and don'ts. Protect your investment. When you have bought a piece of art or created something, make sure that you spend the money on UV glass to protect it. Make sure that you have good hardware on the back. You know, you've invested in something, and hopefully it will show some accumulation. And even if it doesn't, it's going to make you happy for a long time. So you want to make sure that it's protected. Check it regularly. I take my pictures off when I'm doing spring cleaning and stuff. I take everything down, make sure everything's still tight, make sure the wire hasn't given way. We found very often, even with the 10 days that the show is up, that before we came down really hard on the requirements for hanging hardware, that some hanging hardware would give way, and some were hanging on by threads by the end. And so it's really important to make sure, because you don't want to be awakened in the middle of the night by glass crashing on the floor. So do look after checking everything out. Location, location, location. Watercolors, drawings, and photographs do not like sunshine, okay? They need to be protected from that. So UV glass is imperative, or really, really, really important, but also where you place things, because watercolors will fade dramatically. So when I was, for instance, when I was curator, any watercolors, and we had some really top-notch watercolors that I put as far away from any light sources as possible, because even UV fluorescent lights, LEDs not so bad, but even fluorescent lights and tungsten lights can do some fading damage to watercolors particularly, but the sun for sure will damage watercolors, drawings, and photographs. So if you want to hang those in a place where you know it's probably not the safest, what I say is give it a rest. And what that means is maybe you have a couple of pieces that you take down and change it out so that it gets that opportunity to stay out of the light. We had a beautiful Walter Phillips watercolor in the collection that I worked for, and the president of the company loved having it up because it was so beautiful. But I put my foot down and said, you can only have it up 3 months of the year, okay? Otherwise, we're not going to have it for future generations. He was like, okay. So that's what you want to say. The other option too is, and I saw this with a friend of mine in Calgary who was a really big art collector. I mean, obviously all of us can't afford to do this regularly, but she had very large oils and things that she would change according to the season. She had a beautiful winter one, and then she had a summer one that was about the same size, and she would change them out according to the season. And I do that to a certain extent too. There are a couple around the house that I change, and that's a really nice option too, because, you know, as an artist, it's a little disappointing, but we opted for a lot of windows in our house instead of walls. So there's not a lot of wall space for art. So what I do is I change it regularly so that I still get an opportunity to see all my pieces without having the wall space to be able to put them all up at the same time. So, and it freshens the place up. And when people come over at different times, they go, oh, what's new? And it's fun. I really enjoy doing that. So, okay, next. Maybe. Is it not moving? Is it frozen? Okay, we're just, Terry, you're muted, so I can't.
Sorry, I'm having an issue here trying to get to your next slide.
Oh, good time for questions. Anybody have any questions?
How's that?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay.
And
so,
I do see that Barbara has a question for later, but unless you want me to ask it now, Barbara? Yeah, I'll go ahead. She says she has an acrylic painting on canvas that has mold on the reverse side of the canvas. How do you deal with that, or do I need to?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I would, yikes. On the reverse side, on canvas, I would start with a very fine, very diluted little bit of bleach on a Q-tip, and start somewhere where it can't be seen, and see if that helps, but I would start very diluted. And the other option is actually, I might have something that works and I'll bring it over to you. that is non-toxic and won't risk anything, but it kills mold. So I think, yes, I will do that. Remind me, send me an email, and I'll stop by and drop it off for you.
And if it works, Shannon, if it works, can you share it? And we'll put it up somewhere and say,
Sure.
oh, to answer this question, to answer Barbara's question, just so we all know.
All right. So wherever you like, but find spaces that are, again, out of the light. This is one of the ones I was talking about that I tend to change because it's in a really dramatic place in my house. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. It's in a very dramatic place, and so it's one of the first things you notice. And so I change that one according to the seasons regularly. So at Christmas, I have a beautiful snowy scene because out here we don't have the snow we have in Alberta. So sometimes I miss it. And this is Lake Louise, so from the ski hill. So a little ode to Alberta and reminds me of happy times. Again, happy memories. And so that's why I like it. It's also very dramatic and it matches my house really well. So it kind of fits a lot of criteria for me that fills up. So that's why that one is there. It's again, just a low ottoman, so it's got lots of space around it, so it doesn't look like it's crowded, but it's a nice big piece. The one behind me is in the opposite end of the hall, but it's a much smaller space. So I went for something smaller, and the one there is at the bottom of the stairs. So it would be much easier if you'd have just all come over, but anyway, so finding those special places to put. The other thing that, going back to where I talked about location, is above heat sources. That's another one because I know, especially in olden days, they used to hang big paintings above fireplaces and stuff. Well, that's not exactly an ideal place. And that's why, a century later, they're scraping soot off and everything. So be careful. I know we have quite drying heat here with the baseboard heaters and that sort of thing. So be careful again where you're placing it in relation to heat sources too. So, okay, next one. So this is an example of the ones that are behind me because I decided to sit here at the last minute. So again, that's at the end, and I've got a light above it. Again, lighting is very important. So I've got a lot of LED picture lights above to really show things off so that the artwork lights up. Barbara can attest this because she spent a lot of time on our lighting team at the Souk Fine Arts, and you can really change the look of a piece by how you light it. I mean, it's just like doing portraiture. The word photograph means writing or painting with light. And so putting light onto pieces of art is really, really helpful. And you can get battery operated little LED lights for above quite reasonably these days. And it really does make a difference. And it really makes it stand out. If you've got something you're really proud of, show it off. Again, it's an investment, and it just lights up. It's amazing. Okay, next. So again, that's what they look like when you're coming up, and so I'll talk too about why they're placed that way, because the second one, there's a little bit of a rise because that's the first landing for the steps. So okay, next. So this is now coming up the stairs, and because it's two different floors, you really don't notice this when you're in person, but I've stacked them because there's a divider there. So the one on the top is right at the top, and it had a little more space, so I could afford to put something bigger there. And I just love this piece. It's just one of my favorite pieces, so it had to go in my house somewhere. And because we have just a little house, so this actually on the right-hand side is the TV, because I don't like to see a TV, and somebody gave us a big TV as a housewarming gift, so we try and make everything work. But I wanted that particular black and white piece there because it was just so dynamic. So when you're actually here in the house and you're standing at the top of the stairs, the one at the bottom kind of disappears. You don't really notice it. And same thing when you're downstairs, you don't really notice the one on top. The picture makes it very obvious. But this is kind of the idea of breaking the rules again. It works in situ. It doesn't necessarily work when you look at a photograph of it, but it definitely works in situ. So live with it in the way that you enjoy it. Okay. And then this is an idea of putting something where it really shouldn't be, but it worked. This was a wedding gift from my husband's son. And normally I wouldn't recommend putting anything above a door, but because it was clouds and because it matched so beautifully, and again, because we have so little wall space, I put it there and it really works. It's really, really lovely. And the wood around it matches all the wood trim. And so this is one of those break the rules. Go ahead. Okay, so here's where we start with how do you get it on the wall? So I like to have a little tacking hammer just because it's easier. You don't need to. A big hammer works just fine, but hammer, absolutely a level. Gotta have a level. I can't live without a level. Some kind of straight edge. I invested in this, this little doodad a long time ago, and it's brilliant, but then I've probably hung, I'd say, well over 1,000 paintings in my career. So it's a folding ruler that I absolutely love, but you can use just a regular ruler, but you will need a straight edge to make sure your lines are even. So any ruler or stick works just fine. And of course a pencil and an eraser, because you're going to need to draw little marks where you are. So hooks and nails. Now, the museum standard is 58 to 60 inches to the center of the picture, okay? Because so many people ask me, well, how do I know how to hang it? This is the museum standard. At the show, we hang at 58. At the corporate, for the corporate collection, we hung it at 60 only because A, it was mostly men, it was an oil company, and B, it just gave a little more clearance to people pushing carts around, so it was more of a safety issue. But 58 is a really nice level. So what I mean by that, this is why I chose to be here, is that right at the center of the painting, that's your eye level, okay? And that gives you a nice balance between the top and the bottom, okay? Yeah, so thirds. What I meant by thirds was that, now I'm gonna take it off the wall and show you, is that you always hang on 2 hooks, because that gives you more security and you're not running around straightening paintings all the time. If it's on the 2 hooks, it's really safe. And the 2 hooks should be about a third. It should be about thirds. So third, third, third. Okay, that's what I meant by thirds. All right. And breathing room, just breathing room around the piece. Better to have a little too much than not enough, because then it starts to look squished and like it can't breathe. So give everything a little bit of space. Okay, so as far as hooks go, these are the hooks that we recommend. They're called hooks, and you can now get them at Home Hardware, Canadian Tire. They used to be really hard to get. I had to order them because they are kind of the museum standard, and they're lovely because you can't tell how small the hook is there, but they've got a little knob on the top, as you can see, and it pulls out, and it's so fine that it hardly leaves any marks in your wall, and yet they are so strong. They are amazingly made. They protect your walls, they protect your art. I cannot recommend them highly enough. And I'd always rather go a little bigger, like if you got 25 pounds, but you've got a heavy painting, I always err on the side of heavy, because again, even the great big ones, the nails are so fine, it will not cause damage to your walls at all. You'll be able to go back afterwards and just do a quick fill and paint and done. So I love these hooks. Okay, so this is where it gets a little complicated. Oh, the thing, hold on, I forgot a tape measure. I've got everything else but my tape measure. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yes, that's wonderful. I love these moments in
See?
things.
There we go.
I need to, Shannon, can you tell me how to go back a slide?
Oh,
Ah, no, it's
you
I've
probably
gone too far ahead.
go out and back in again. Like,
Oh wait, I did it.
okay.
That was the lovely Jen showing me from the side. I don't know if you saw her hand come in here and push the button.
Remember, this is the first one. We're all working through this.
Here we are. Yeah.
New world. Okay. So figure out where you want it to hang. So this was what I did to figure out this room was I took it from the edge of the riser, which you can't see, to the edge of the wall here. Okay. And then I measure that distance and find my center point. Okay. So in this case, it was 21.5 inches. So I put a little mark at 21.5 inches. Okay. Then what I do is I measure the height of my frame from top to bottom, which is 25 inches. And I divide that in half, which is of course 12.5. And you add that number to your 58, 59, or 60. So you figure out what height you're going to go for. So in this case, I used 58. And so you do your 12.5, which takes us to 70.5. So you measure the 70.5. 70.5. And you mark that. And then what you do is you take the back of your painting or frame and you measure your thirds and figure out where that is and hold it taut so that all the weight, because once of course it's hanging, it's going to make the wire really tight. You hold that and you measure how tall that is from the top. So in this case, it's 4 inches. So now that's how you know where from the top, where it's going to come down. So you measure 4 inches down from the top, from your 70 inches, okay? And that gives you where your hooks are going to go. And then you take that distance, okay? And then, say it was, in this case, it was 10 inches. So 5 inches on either side of that. And that's where your nails are going to go. And they'll go right at the bottom. So you put the bottom on the mark and hammer in. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So it seems complicated and you'll be able to go back and write all these instructions down. And once you do it once or twice, it becomes really, really easy. And if you're hanging more than one piece, so let me just put this on the wall. So you put it on, level it out, and because it's been hanging level for so long, it actually went right back to it. So, and that's the beautiful thing about hanging on too. I have not leveled this picture since I first hung it, and it automatically jumped back to level because that's why this system works so well. So say you want to hang more than one piece, and not necessarily, because I consider this 2 different rooms, so that was different. But if you're hanging 2 pieces together, what you do is you make a total. So figure out how far you want between the 2 pieces. So say you want 4 inches between the 2. So now you would add the 4 inches, or the width of this picture, and then 4 inches, and then the width of this picture, and that's now your total this way. Okay, so your center comes off of that, and you have to add in the 2 inches on each side to your distance. Does that make sense? It's probably sounding pretty complicated, but I can draw diagrams and send them to you if you are really stuck and want more. So it's not as complicated as it sounds, because usually I talk talk our hangers through at once and everybody hangs like crazy. As I say, once you've done it once or twice, piece of cake. Okay, next. All right. Oh, that was faster than I anticipated it being. Okay, we've got time for lots of questions.
Okay, I'm going to go back in and open up everybody so that you can, well, I'll try to do that. Let's see, I'll unmute. Yep, unmute.
It's Jeff here. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some series,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to hang, like in some cases, 3 vertically or 4 vertically. So for 3 vertically, is it the middle one that's eye level and the other 2 just above, or do you vary that?
So you don't want them all in a row. You want them.
I want them vertical, one on top the other.
Oh, yes, yes, exactly the same thing. So what you do is take the total of all 3 and start from there. So start with your middle one, and yes, that one would be at 58 inches, and I would definitely go 58 for that, and then stack them from there. Don't forget to add in the space between, because if you don't add that in your math, they'll be too close together. So hang that, and then up from there with that extra space in the middle, and then down, same thing. Does that make sense, you get?
Yes, it does. Now, if I have 4,
Yes.
is it okay to have a space between
Yes.
print at eye
Absolutely.
level?
Yes, that would be, no matter what, you need that center point. So definitely if you're doing 4, the white space between would be your center point.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shannon, I have a question.
Yes,
there is a particular style of having your pictures almost in their own little gallery.
yes.
I like that, and I have it in my house, but I'm pretty sure I'm not doing it exactly the right way. Is there a way to do that?
There is, in the sense that what I like to do when I'm doing something like that, because I have hung like that, is pick one that becomes your focal point, and then work around it. And really important to try and keep your spacing even, so that because that's going to make it cohesive, interestingly enough. Then you can do all kinds of different things, and as long as the frames coordinate, you just want some kind of cohesion, and you want a center point, like you want a focal point that the eye can then go from there, and there's no rule as to where that is. It doesn't have to be the middle one. It could be on the side, and then work them out from there like a wave. It's a great way to decorate because you can do so much, but definitely find one that will be your anchor. That's the best word, your anchor point, and then go from there.
Okay, and you mentioned having something, I think you said talking about the frames being cohesive. So there needs to be a cohesion either in the pieces that you have or in the frameworks. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Definitely. Either if the pictures are all very varied, I would go for very similar frames. Maybe they're all black or something like that. If the pictures are all similar, then you can go for slight, deviations between the frames, but don't make it too extreme, because that'll be very jarring to the eye. So like if you've got some in a minimalist black frame, don't suddenly put a Baroque silver frame beside it. So
okay, yeah, good. I haven't done that, so it's okay.
I know. I thought, let's say it.
Oh no, absolutely, great piece of advice. Any other questions from anybody? Okay, then Shannon, thank you so much for that. You've you've given us a real formula for how to do things. I'll remember that 58 number from now on. And I really like the concept of the 2 hooks too, because that is the thing I've done in my house. I cheated and I got some of the, I think they're called monkey hooks. You actually poke them in the wall and they come around. And those are quite good too. But I have several holes from around there from not knowing to measure and to put 2 hooks up there. So that's really, really helpful. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Barbara's hand up.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about, like you, I have more paintings than wall space, and I change them, and I might have a landscape painting, and then the next season I want 2 portrait size paintings. So my hooks need to be in different places. How do you take hooks out of the wall and put new hooks in with minimal holes? You're saying these hooks work very well.
Yes, they do. But the other option is if it's close enough, leave the hooks.
Yeah.
If you're going to be rotating the same pieces, and the hooks are going to be hidden, leave them up. Nobody's going to see them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because the less you have to pull them in and out of the wall, the better. So.
Right. All right. Any last questions for Shannon then? I'm not hearing any. So thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending our very first ever Zoom recorded meeting and artist talk. It's our great hope and wish that we'll be back next year, back in the arena. But in the meantime, and hopefully Shannon will be doing this talk again next year, because it proves to be a popular one with everybody. We all know how to do, or need to know how to do things properly. So like I said, we really hope we're back in the arena next year, able to view the pieces in person live. But in the meantime, this is what we can do. So thank you all very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And we will sign out for now. And I'll make sure that this is posted up on the website for others to view as well. So thanks for your participation, and check out tomorrow's talk is by Catherine Fraser, I believe, and she's going to be talking about creativity. Where does it come from? And she's hoping that she gets some younger people and some older people and just a mix of people, and talking about where creativity comes from. It'll be at 2 o'clock again, as they will be all this week long. So we hope you're able to join us for that one as well. So thanks, everybody, and bye. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shannon, do you want to stay on for a moment?
I do.
Okay. Bye-bye, Barb.